Hello, this webinar focuses on skills and tips on how to better advocate for your family member. I hope you enjoy this webinar and gain a lot of useful skills. Advocating takes practice, patience, and hard work, but every family grows stronger together through advocacy. Become a better advocate. What is important to consider to become a better advocate? To imagine a good life for our family members in a world where we are recognized and valued as part of the diversity of our communities. To explore the power of families and family leadership in changing how society sees, understands, and accepts disability. To increase our understanding of the values of community living movement. To develop strategies to put our values and visions into action. To build the strength of family-to-family connections as the foundation of our grassroots movement for community living. The good life. For a moment, think about what a good life for your family member means. A good life may mean many things. It may mean living independently. It may mean volunteering in their spare time. It also may mean having friends and good relationships. I can bet that what your ultimate goal for your family member is that they are happy, healthy, and enjoying their life in a full, inclusive environment. It may be helpful to write these visions for your family member down. Advocating for a family member may end up being frustrating, challenging, but being able to recenter and focus on what is important will help give you more energy to push on. The UN Convention of Rights. The following information was taken directly from the website listed above. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and its optional protocol was adopted on the 13th of December 2016 at the United Nations headquarters in New York and was opened for signature on the 30th of March 2007. There were 82 signatories to the convention, 44 signatories to the optional protocol, and 1 ratification of the convention. This is the highest number of signatories in the history to a UN convention on its opening days. It is the first comprehensive human rights treaty of the 21st century and is the first human rights convention to be open for signature by the regional integration organizations. The convention entered into force on the 3rd of May in 2008. The convention follows decades of work by the United Nations to change attitudes and approaches to persons with disabilities. It takes to a new height the movement from viewing persons with disabilities as objects of charity, medical treatment, and social protection towards viewing persons with disabilities as subjects with rights who are capable of claiming those rights and making decisions for their lives based on their free and informed consent, as well as being active members of society. The convention is intended as a human rights instrument with an explicit social development dimension. It adopts a broad categorization of persons with disabilities and reaffirms that all persons with all types of disabilities must enjoy all human rights and fundamental freedoms. It clarifies and qualifies how all categories of rights apply to persons with disabilities and identifies areas where adaptations have to be made for persons with disabilities to effectively exercise their rights and areas where their rights have been violated and where protection of rights must be reinforced. The convention was negotiated during 8 sessions of an ad hoc committee of the General Assembly from 2002 to 2006, making it the fastest negotiated human rights treaty. This book is downloadable online. It is available as a printout also. In 50 articles, the Convention of Rights of a Persons with Disability clearly articulates what existing human rights mean with a disability context and establishes reporting and monitoring procedures for states parties. Global context of disability. There are at least 650 million people with disabilities living in the world, approximately 400 million of whom live in a developing country. If one includes families, there are approximately 2 billion persons who are directly affected by disability in the world, representing almost a third of the population. Of the estimated 650 million persons living with a disability in the world today, 130 million have an intellectual disability. Less than 2% of children with disabilities in developing countries are attending school. If they all lived in the same place, they would make up the third largest country in the world. 80% of persons with disabilities are unemployed. While people with disabilities make up about 10% of the world's population, they make up about 20% of those living in poverty. This means an estimated 26 million people with an intellectual disability living on less than $1 a day. The UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities is the first human rights treaty of the 21st century. The UN Convention of Rights of Persons with a Disability was also the fastest negotiated human rights convention in the UN history. The development of the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with a Disability was the first time in history civil society actively participated in the development and negotiation of the text. It was the first human rights convention with an explicit social development dimension. With 82 signatories on March 30th, 2017, it has the highest number of signatories in history to a UN convention. This was informed by self-advocates and families. New understanding and new approach. Understands disability as a set of barriers, convention firmly rooted in this perspective, seen as a tool to drive this shift. Understands that rights are made real in our communities, not in isolation. Provides a roadmap to help governments make a difference. Not just a listing of human rights, talks about the supports people needed to make their rights real. No new rights, but does have new concepts. It has concepts of supported decision-making and a right to live in the community, choose where and with whom one lives. How do we make the convention real? Use the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with a Disability as an information tool, advocacy tool, litigation tool, to give meaning to the words. You can use it to link it to your activities, analyze issues through the convention's lens. You can also use it when you talk with governments, service providers, and educators, making them aware of it. Build it into new newsletters and presentations to make people aware of the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability. Change won't happen overnight, but the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disability can make a difference. It can provide the framework for change. Think of personal and interpersonal conditions that affect a good life for your family member. List at least 5. This helps identify barriers that are currently affecting the ability to obtain a good life. Now, do the same for community conditions and system conditions. Change happens when a group of people who have the same goals in mind work together in making their goals a reality. Working together is important. So remember to always build bridges, not burn them. Who is in your life? Who are the people who make up your network? Looking at the diagram above, let's look at the smallest circle. Intimacy. People you live with, who know who you are and love you for that. Know what your wishes and dreams are and support and encourage you. Who understand your challenges and know your strengths. Now the next circle out is the friendship and family circle. People with whom you share your life, with whom you have a sense of belonging, where there's caring and concern, and people you can count on. And the next circle out is participation. People you spend some of time with, but your only connection is that activity. For example, there's coworkers, neighbors, congregation members, social clubs. This is the circle where we find purpose and make a difference with our jobs, our hobbies, social groups, physical activities, and civic involvement. And the last circle is exchange. People who are paid to be in your life, such as doctors, teachers, landlords, financial professionals. For people with disabilities, often these people end up knowing things that for most of us, only the people in our intimacy circle know. Doing this activity can help you identify people in your life who can help you advocate and can help you be a change maker. This is a good activity to do with your family member to make them aware of different types of relationships that they may have in their life. Networks of support. For many years, people with disabilities enjoyed the dedicated support and encouragement of their parents. For some people, their parents are their main source of support and friendship well into adulthood. Networks of support are an important aspect of planning for a safe and secure future with people with disabilities. A network is a group of people who care about a person to the extent that they will commit to being involved in the person's life on a regular basis. Networks of support usually involve the individual with an intellectual disability, family members, friends, and other community members. They can also involve service providers and support workers. Networks of support can play many different roles depending on the circumstances and needs of the person who is at the center of the process. Help the person in the family who make decisions. Help the person in the family to make plans for the future. Make sure that the person's voice is heard. Make a commitment to the person's future and security. Provide friendship and opportunities to be involved in community. Provide practical support. Help manage supports and money. Advocate with service systems and address issues that may arise. What is advocacy? Advocacy is most relevant in closing the know/do gap. It is about efforts that are dedicated toward ensuring that outcomes are in line with our values, whether we are talking about personal outcomes or those that are created by community agencies or government departments. Yet even when the right knowledge gets to the right people at the right time, they may still be unwilling to or unable to put this knowledge into practical use due to competing pressures, constraints, lack of agreement, or lack of understanding. Advocacy is strategic communication to create the social and political incentives to attract resources, shape policies, and remove barriers. Tips for individual advocacy. Be prepared, informed, and realistic. Don't go alone. Stay cool and listen with both ears. Develop compassion for your adversaries and respect their values. Get to know the people who can help you. Always take notes. Send follow-up, understanding of the outcomes or agreements. Understand the organizational power structure and follow it. Knowledge is power. Resolve the issue at the lowest possible level. Example, don't use a cannon when a pea shooter will do. What do? We cannot excuse government. We must hold them accountable for the promises that they make. We must tell them that the status quo is simply not good enough. We must tell them that we, our sons and daughters, have value. We must tell them that this value and these rights must be considered, recognized, and respected. They must act on our input. But how do we do this? Make your discontent known, publicly, loudly, but always in an organized way. Connect to and with each other. Join local ACLs and family networks. Be involved and active. Be a leader. Participate in public and government events. And provide information and solutions. Partner with other like-minded organizations, like People's First, seniors groups, and other disability organizations. Be aware of what is happening elsewhere. Know that as families, you do have power, and you can use it. Remember, you are part of a larger movement. There are some cautions for consideration. Always de-escalate a situation before escalating. Know your partners and their agenda. Keep your voice central. Know what you control. Identifying challenges and opportunities. Identify the obstacle. What are the challenges in addressing this obstacle? Are there any opportunities or things that are happening now that you could use or take advantage of in addressing this obstacle? Developing strategies. Given these challenges and possible opportunities, what strategy or actions could be taken to address the obstacle? Who do we partner with? Who do we engage with? What do we research? And what can we create? Identifying roles in social change. Who should be doing what to put our strategies into action? Families, ACL Federation, the Canadian Association for Community Living, provincial associations like the New Brunswick Association for Community Living, and local associations, community leaders, and government. We'd like to finish with an exercise. Identify an obstacle in your journey in advocating. Identify challenges in addressing this obstacle. Identify possible opportunities and conditions. Develop a strategy or actions that will address the obstacle. And identify who will be involved in the strategy and who will do what with whom. We hope you found this webinar helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to the New Brunswick Association for Community Living.